Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining our session today. As you can see, some of your peers have already begun to introduce themselves in the chat. So as you join the call, please take a moment to share your name, your role, and the community that you serve in the chat. My name is Laura McDaniel. I'm the Policy Outreach Lead for the State and Local Fiscal Recovery Funds Program, and I'm pleased to be here with you today for this discussion about reporting and compliance for the State and Local Fiscal Recovery Funds Program, or SLFRF. In today's session, we'll cover a few items that will be useful to you as you prepare to complete your upcoming annual reports. First, we will review some of the key reporting timelines and resources. Second, we will share resources for accessing the reporting portal and updating and changing your user roles. Third, we will provide a live reporting portal demonstration of how to complete your annual report. And finally, we will review some of your compliance responsibilities and helpful resources. So thank you all for introducing yourselves to your peers in the chat. At this moment, we will use the chat to share materials and to give you quick access to some key resources for you to use as you get up to speed on the program. Please use the Q&A function in Zoom for your questions going forward. And now I'm going to hand it over to my colleague, James Bond, to give you an overview of the program. James?
Thanks, Laura. As many of you know, the State and Local Fiscal Recovery Funds, or SLFRF program, a part of the American Rescue Plan, delivered $350 billion to state, local, and tribal governments across the country to support their response to and recovery from the COVID-19 public health emergency. Through SLFRF, over 30,000 recipient governments are investing these funds to address the unique needs of their local communities and create a stronger national economy by using these funds for the eligible uses. Now, we won't cover all of the program background and eligible uses in this discussion, but linked in the chat are resource guides to help you learn more about the SLFRF program. I will now hand it back over to my colleague, Laura McDaniel, who will go over the reporting resources and responsibilities overview.
Thank you, James. So in this section, we'll cover a general overview on the program, key reporting requirements and deadlines, and how to access the Treasury reporting portal. The live demonstration is going to be later in this presentation. Now let's take a look at the reporting portal, reporting resources and responsibilities. So in this section, we'll walk through important general background, reminders, and new resources for success to help you in completing your reports. We will also have a live reporting portal demonstration showing you how to complete the report. So state, territorial, metropolitan city, county, tribal governments, and non-entitlement units of local government, or NEUs, that receive funding from the State and Local Fiscal Recovery Funds Program are required to comply with compliance and reporting responsibilities that are set out in your financial assistance agreement. So all recipients of SLFRF award funds must complete financial, performance, and compliance reporting as provided in the compliance and reporting guidance. So as a reminder, use of SLFRF award funds under all 7 eligible use categories must be obligated by December 31st, 2024. And for your convenience, we provided a link to the final rule frequently asked questions, or FAQs, in the chat that outlines more about this. So for the 4 eligible use categories described in the 2022 final rule, including the revenue loss eligible use category and the emergency relief from natural disasters eligible use category that's described in the 2023 interim final rule. These both are subject to the same administrative requirements and the expenditure deadline of December 31st, 2026. Funds used for surface transportation or Title I projects must be expended by September 30th, 2026, which is earlier than the December 31st, 2026 expenditure deadline for the other eligible use categories. Well, this part is important. NEUs must submit project and expenditure reports quarterly or annually to Treasury, depending on the size of their SLFRF allocation. Right now, we will briefly go over the reporting requirements, and you are encouraged to review the full compliance and reporting guidance for the SLFRF program, which is linked in the chat, and you can see the guide on the cover of the guide on the screen here. So as we mentioned earlier, the required reports help Treasury determine recipient compliance with the terms and conditions of the SLFRF award, including regarding whether funds are being used for their intended purposes. In addition, the reports assist Treasury in assessing the effectiveness of the program and making informed policy decisions. Please note that first, Treasury encourages NEUs to include as much detail as possible in their reporting, particularly as it relates to claiming the standard allowance if they've opted for that, and reporting the use of funds under the revenue loss eligible use category for expenditure category 6.1 projects. Second, NEUs are required to satisfy the SLFRF reporting requirements and continue to report regardless of how much they have expended until award closeout occurs. Third, in accordance with the SLFRF Financial Assistance Agreement, all recipients, including NEUs and their subrecipients, are required to have an assigned unique entity identifier, or UEI, in SAM.gov for the duration of the period of performance of the SLFRF award. Please note that the revenue loss eligible use category does not include subawards. And for more information on that, you can take a look at FAQ 13.14. So we'd like to take a moment to point out that all of these resources, from user guides to follow along webinars to explainer videos that we're going to talk about, they're all found online on our SLFRF program website. So you'll find the link to the landing page, recipient compliance and reporting responsibilities, in the Zoom chat. We will follow up after this webinar with an email to all attendees to provide these important links, and we strongly suggest that you spend a few minutes bookmarking these links in anticipation of successfully filing your reports. So before you begin work on your report, there are a few key items to review. Please consult the latest edition of the Compliance and Reporting Guide, as mentioned earlier, and you'll see it here on the screen and linked in the chat. And make sure that you check the SLFRF award terms and conditions in your financial assistance agreement, the authorizing statute, the 2022 final rule, and other regulatory and statutory requirements. Now, you'll need to refer to the latest project and expenditure report user guide, as you can see here on the screen and linked in the chat, which will provide step-by-step guidance for to submit your SLFRF reports. Later in this presentation, we will give you a live reporting portal overview. You can use this and the recording of the live demonstration to refer to as you go to complete your report. You can also refer to the self-service resources, which are linked in the chat, for common questions related to the program, including reporting. So now that you know the how of where to find key resources to help you complete your report, you'll need to know the where of your report, as in where to submit it, which you'll do using Treasury's reporting portal. You can access the reporting portal on the web page entitled Recipient Compliance and Reporting Responsibilities and look under the Accessing Treasury's Portal section. You'll need to choose either the login.gov or id.me link, depending on which account your organization has. We will cover that briefly in the next section of our presentation. Before we move on, let's do a recap of this section. We covered reporting requirements and responsibilities, how to file the SLFRF annual report, and where to file the SLFRF annual report. So now let's move on to user roles within the Treasury reporting portal. We will do a demonstration of what the portal looks like and how to access it shortly. So in this section, we will review the different user roles within the reporting portal, how to update your login.gov and id.me accounts, and when to prepare to update your user roles if needed ahead of the upcoming annual report in April. First, let's review the three user roles. The first role I will cover is that of the account administrator. The account administrator for the SLFRF award has the administrative role of maintaining the names and contact information of the designated individuals for SLFRF reporting. The account administrator is responsible for working within your organization to determine its designees for the roles of point of contact for reporting and authorized representative for reporting, and providing their names and complete, up-to-date contact information through Treasury's portal. The account administrator can also view SLFRF reports. Finally, the account administrator is responsible for making any changes or updates as needed over the award period. We recommend that the account administrator identify an individual to serve in their place in the event of staff changes. Now we will move on to the point of contact for reporting. The point of contact for reporting is the primary contact for receiving official Treasury notifications about reporting on the SLFRF award, including alerts about upcoming reporting requirements and deadlines. The point of contact for reporting is responsible for completing the SLFRF reports, but cannot certify and submit these reports. So that's important. I'll repeat it. The point of contact for reporting is responsible for completing the SLFRF reports, but cannot certify and submit these reports. So now that we've covered these first two, let's take a look at the authorized representative for reporting. So in order to submit reports to the reporting portal, you must designate an authorized representative role on your account. The authorized representative for reporting is responsible for certifying and submitting official reports on behalf of the SLFRF award recipient. The official reports may include special reports, monthly reports, quarterly reports, interim reports, and final reports. Treasury will accept reports or other official communications only when submitted by the authorized representative for reporting. The authorized representative for reporting is also responsible for communications with Treasury on matters such as extension requests and amendments of previously submitted reports. So now let's discuss the two sign-in services used to access Treasury's reporting portal, login.gov and ID.me. So to access the portal and submit your SLFRF reports, you'll need to register an account with one of the two sign-in services, login.gov or ID.me. To assist your registration process, Treasury's website provides resources that include follow-along screenshots and two 15-minute videos with step-by-step walkthroughs of how to set up, create, and update your sign-in service accounts with the login.gov or ID.me platforms. If you are a new user and have not previously registered with ID.me, or if you are a non-entitlement unit of local government, an NEU, we ask that you register using the login.gov process at portal.treasury.gov/compliance. We strongly suggest new users and NEUs register using login.gov, as it offers a much easier user-friendly experience when registering to access the Treasury portal. Users who have previously registered through ID.me and submitted a compliance report may continue to access Treasury's portal through that method, although creating a new login.gov account will not cause any issues. Users can log in using both ID.me and login.gov, provided the accounts use the same email address. So here are a few pro tips and reminders for success when logging into the Treasury portal. First, please make sure that you are using a supported web browser when logging in the first time or any time that you log in. The Treasury portal supports most web browsers, including Microsoft Edge and Google Chrome. However, the Treasury portal does not work well on Internet Explorer, for example. Second, account administrators, and we cannot stress this enough, 4 weeks before any report is due is a great time to check and update your group's user roles if needed in the Treasury portal. So sign into your accounts early and keep your user roles up to date ahead of the April report to avoid delays. Verify that you have listed their correct names, phone numbers, and especially email addresses that they will use to access the treasury.gov portal. This third one is for NEU users. Remember that login.gov is the easier sign-in service to register with and use when accessing the Treasury portal. NEUs do not need to fulfill the more complex requirements other SLFRF recipients must meet when registering with ID.me. Register to use the login.gov process at portal.treasury.gov/compliance. So as a recap, in this section, we covered key roles for managing the Treasury reporting portal access and submitting reports, the timeline for when to update reporting roles before the annual report is due, and where to find resources for creating login.gov and ID.me accounts. So now we'll turn to my colleague, Stephanie Johnson, who will provide the reporting portal walkthrough, showing you how to apply some of the information we just covered. She will also cover how to troubleshoot some common issues. Stephanie?
Hi, everyone. My name is Stephanie, and I'm with the Data and Reporting team here at SLFRF. And if we could go to the next slide. In this section, we are going to be going over some common issues and questions that we do see come up a lot. Also, we're going to go over some new features since the last time you've done a report. And lastly, it's a reminder that you are required to certify and submit the report, even if there is no activity during the reporting period. So right now I am going to share my screen, and we are going to take a step back and go over the roles that Laura was previously discussing in our designation of roles section. I am not able to share my screen at this moment. 1 second. There we go. Okay. So to start off, when you are going into your page, you are going to see that there are 3 lines in the top left corner. By selecting these lines, you will see a drop-down box with options. From there, you will want to select account. As this populates, in this section, an account name typically generates. However, because it's a demo creation, we do not have an account name there, so I am going to switch over to screenshots. This is the section where your account name would show, and you will see the blue link where your account name is. You would select that link. And once you select that link, you will be given the option of 3 tabs. And as an account administrator, you will want to navigate to the certification tab. This is where you will be able to enter your name, that you are the authorized to make changes and submit names on the designation form. Once you go to the designation form, you will take that POC name information and add it to the sections. You will also have roles listed in this box. You will have the account administrator role, the authorized representative for reporting role, and the report for contact reporting in this section. To make a selection on these roles, you will select the role you would like and hit the arrow to move it to this box. A single role can have multiple people assigned to it, and a single person can have multiple roles. Therefore, you can have one person with all the roles. You can have one person with only 1 or 2 of the roles. Once you make these selections, you can also change these by selecting it once it is in this box and move it back over to the pre-selection box by using the arrow. Once you enter the information, you can complete it and it will populate in the bottom section in this area where an edit button will populate in this section. However, because it does not show my demo model, we will not be able to see it in this section, but if you have any questions, please let us know. There is also another location where you can see the information, and that is once you log into the portal, you will be able to see on the recipient profile tab, you will be able to see the names listed down below. You will also be able to see the roles listed in this section. However, you cannot make edits to this section. You would have to go back out and access through your account. And Laura, I'm going to take a pause there to see if there are any questions.
Thank you, Stephanie. So I do have a few questions here from the Q&A. So the first one I have for you is, what is the earliest we can begin to submit our reports for 2024?
Okay. The portal opens on April 1st, 2024, and the deadline to report is April 30th, 2024, and you will want to report your activity from April 1st, 2023 through March 31st, 2024.
Thank you. I'll go to the next question now. So this person says, we've had some staff changes since the last SLFRF reporting was completed. How do I find who is listed as the account administrator and as the authorized representative?
Great question. Again, that can be found once you are inside the port or your compliance report. You will be able to go to the recipient profile tab and scroll towards the bottom, and you will have a listing of your point of contacts, their contact information, as well as their current roles. And to make any edits to this, however, you will need to go back out and select your account from this section and make edits in that area.
The next question that I have for you is, can one person be all of the roles, and then can the same person complete the report and certify it?
Yes. So one person can have multiple roles, and they can do multiple things within the reporting requirements, or you could have it divided up to multiple people having the same role as well. So two people can do the same function.
Thank you. So the last question that I have for you is, where do you go to edit contacts?
For this, again, this is just a great reference once you're within the compliance report, but if you notice that this is incorrect, you will want to go out and go to your account page and then select your account there and make the appropriate changes on the designation form.
That's all that I have for now, so I'll turn it back to you, Stephanie.
Okay. So here we are going to work on accessing your report. To access your report, you're going to go into your compliance report and you will have a listing of all of your reports and agreements associated with your account. From there, you can identify the status of your report, as well as the reporting period and deadline. And then you can distinguish what can be done based off of the icon here in this section. And over here on the right, there is a drop-down list of what these icons mean. So if you have a previous report from the last submitted report, you will be able to view this report. It will have a view icon and a download icon. And then the blue pencil indicates that this is a report that we are needing information for. So accessing the report, you will select your pencil, and then it will generate into the portal. From here, your information is going to generate here on the right side of the screen. Again, this is going to tell you the report, the demo time frame, or the reporting time frame, which this is expected to have information from these dates. So this is where you will see your April 1st through March 31st dates, and then your submission deadline, which would be April 30th, 2024. You'll also see your allocation amount. This helpful screen will be on multiple tabs, but for the purposes of this demo, we will be going over your recipient profile tab, project overview tab, the recipient specific tab, and the certification tab. So to begin with, we are going to show you the recipient profile tab. Again, this is the same tab where you would find the information of your point of contact list. And this tab also has your detailed information here on the right side of the screen. One thing that we would like to point out within this tab is there are questions that may have not been answered in a previous report. We ask that you go through your reporting tabs and verify anything with a red asterisk, that you provide responses to these questions. And that way it alleviates any errors or warnings that you may get as you progress through the report. All of this information up here is information that is pre-populated based off of information already submitted. So next, we are going to go over to the recipient specific tab. In this tab, this is where you are going to identify if you are taking the standard allowance or you are doing a calculated revenue loss. This is a yes or no question. Is your jurisdiction electing to use standard allowance of up to $10 million, not to exceed your total award allocation for identifying revenue loss? This is a yes or no question. By selecting yes to allowing for the standard allowance, you are asked 3 additional questions. The amount of revenue loss due to COVID-19 public health emergency. This amount has to be $10 million or less. As you have, you look at your allocation amounts, you will want to use that amount if you are choosing to use the standard allowance and enter that amount here. So the purposes of this demo, I have an allocated amount of $10 million. I will enter that information there. And then you'll be prompted by another question. Were fiscal recovery funds used to make a deposit into a pension fund? Again, a yes or no question. Once you add that, it also will ask you to briefly describe what the revenue replacement funds are. We would like you to be as detailed as possible when you do enter this information to provide us additional insight into what the project is for. And so for the purposes of this, we will provide a test project. And then you will say, as you can see, we got a green check mark, so that means it's saved appropriately. However, I want to say that what if I had put an amount that exceeds my allocation amount? I put $15 million and I hit save. I will get a warning message warning me that the total is greater than my SLFRF allocation amount. So we'll need to change that back to 10 million. Okay, I want to take a pause there, Laura, to see if you have any questions.
Sure. So we do have a few questions here. So the first one is, where do I find my signed award terms and conditions agreement that the system is requesting to be uploaded?
Back to our home page. And when you have a request for agreements, your NEU agreements will be located as well in this section. So if there is information required from them, you will again see the blue pencil. However, if you've already submitted these documents, you will be able to view them with the blue icon. You can select that and view what was submitted.
The next question that I have for you is, this person says, for those of us who have expended and reported all of our funds in 2022 and reported in 2023, is there a way to just check a no change box and have the report completed?
Yes, we will be covering that shortly in our project overview section, where you do have the option to lock a project. However, I must stress that even though all your projects are locked, you are still required to go in every reporting period and certify and submit your report. With the lock feature, you are just not required to enter any new information for that project. However, you still will need to certify and submit your report.
And then this is the last question I have for you now. Is the allocation amount always your total distribution and not what is remaining and not yet spent?
Yes, your total allocated amount will be shown in the right side in this legend over here, and that will be the total amount that has been distributed to you. That is not the remaining balance. We do have some additional tools that we will be going over that do have calculations to allow you to identify areas where you do still have funding available. But this allocated amount will remain consistent as the amount that you have been distributed.
Well, that's all I have for you now, so I'll turn back over to you, Stephanie.
Okay, we are going to navigate to the project overview tab, I just want to remind that we have just gone in and established that we have a standard allowance of $10 million, but now we need to make that into a project. So from there, we would go to the project overview section. In this section, I do want to highlight that as changes and new requirements do come out, we do place these in this project overview section. That this information also is found in our P&E reporting user guide. However, it's just a paragraph on what has changed, previous updates, and the new updates that have changed. We tried to help point people in the right direction to identify if there are new updates to see if it is applicable to your reporting period. So please take a minute to just briefly read through these when you enter your reporting portal. Okay. Now that we are in the project overview section, you will be initially asked a first question. Does your jurisdiction have projects to report for this reporting period? Once you have established projects, this question does not need to be answered every time. This is only for the initial time when you are going to add projects. From there, you have the option of, yes, your jurisdiction does have projects to report, or no, my jurisdiction does not have projects to report. If you select no, you're going to be required to provide a reason on why there are no projects at this time. For today's demo, we are going to say, yes, we do have projects to report. And from there, you will go down to this lower section and you will add a project. In this section, you will be asked to enter information specific on your project. Because we are doing standard allowance, we are going to select the expenditure category for revenue replacement 6. And then the subcategory of provisions of governmental services. There are always warning messages and information that may pop up as you are going through the report. This one just states that obligations and expenditures that are reported under expenditure category 6.1 revenue replacement do not need to have a subrecipient, subawards, or expenditures separately reported after entering the 6.1 project as required. So what that's saying is once we enter all this information, we do not need to provide other detail regarding the specifics on the awards and expenditures. To begin with, we were going to enter the project name. The project name is something that you, the recipient, determine. So since we're doing some revenue replacement, we will call this project test revenue replace. And then the project ID number. Again, this is something that you, the recipient, are determining. However, remember that this project ID does need to be a unique number. For the purposes of this demonstration, I am entering an adopted budget. However, this is not a requirement for NEUs. This is only required for Tier 1 recipients. Once we enter our adopted budget, you will want to enter the total cumulative obligations and total cumulative expenditures. This is the total amount of funding that has been obligated and spent for the entire time of the project. So we are identifying that we have spent it all. So we will enter that amount in this section. And then there is the current period obligations and the current period expenditures. This would be what you have done only in this current period. Keep in mind that these amounts cannot exceed your total cumulative obligations and expenditures. These are included in that total cumulative obligation and total cumulative expenditure. But for the purposes of this demo, we have just entered that we are using standard allowance for these projects, so we are adding it as a current period project. So we are adding that information to the current period section. Lastly, for your projects, you will want to provide a description of what this project covers. Again, we would like to be as detailed as possible, and additional information of how it could be used. So once we have entered all information, we will add our project. And it does take a moment, and there it populates. Now you will see our screen has changed. It has a roll-up of our total adopted budget, our total obligations, and our total expenditures. This is for all of the projects that are listed below. If you have multiple projects, this would total up at this top section. Also, there is a calculation field in this section. This is a calculation to determine how much of the funding is still available that has not been budgeted. This is only available if you are providing an adopted budget. It is basically saying, of my adopted budget that I have established, I have $10 million in obligations towards it. So I have 0 remaining. If I had only said I had obligated $5 million, then this calculation would say 5 million is remaining to be obligated based off of our adopted budget. Here you will also notice that there is information regarding the project we just entered: the name, the ID, the obligation and expenditure totals, the category. There is a blank section for completion status. We will go over that in a moment. Here you can also see your project status, and you can click on the green icon if you would like to open that project up again, your obligation status, and your expenditure status. Again, you can click on all of these if you would like to enter that information. Also, we have the new feature of the lock status project. To lock a project, the project must have a completion status entered of completed, and you must have fully obligated and expended all of the funding associated with this project. So if we were to go in to lock this project, we will notice that our completion status is blank, and therefore our lock project button does not turn blue. Our other information is entered, and it is in green. The total cumulative obligations are listed in this column, as you can see, a period breakout, as well as the total expenditures. Now, to enter this completion status, what we could do is go back into the project status. And then the question does generate a status to completion. And we can then take the dropdown and select that this project is completed and save the project again. Now the completion status has generated in this area, and we can go in and lock this project. It is completed, it is 100% obligated, 100% expended. We will lock this project. By locking this project, it allows for you in future reportings to go straight to the certify and submit section. If all your projects are locked, then you no longer need to enter a current period changes to that project and can go straight to the certify and submit section. I just want to reiterate, just because you have locked the project does not mean that you don't have to do future reporting. You are still required to do a future report by just going in and certifying and submitting the project. Now, Laura, I want to switch it back to you, see if we have any questions.
Hey, Stephanie. Yeah, we have a few questions about this. So the first one I have for you is total adopted budget for one particular project, or is this budget for the entire allocation?
the adopted budget is different in different sections. The total adopted budget in this section is a roll up all the projects that are listed. So if we had 2 projects listed, one for 10 million, one for 5 million, this total adopted budget would be 5 million, or would be 15 million, a total of the 5 and 10 million for total. In the individual status of a project, this adopted budget is specific to this project only. It only has to do with your revenue replacement project.
So the next question that I have for you is, do you put only the amount expended in 2023 or the total that you were awarded?
Great question. So in this section of your project, the total cumulative sections are going to be the total for the entire life of this project that you're using the SLFRF funds for. In this section over here, the current period obligations, you would put only what has happened in this most recent reporting period. Just a reminder that this current reporting period is cumulative into this total amount. Therefore, the current period obligations and expenditures must be less than or equal to your total cumulative obligations and expenditures.
So the next question that I have for you is, if you log your report once completed and have expended all the funds, do you still have to report in April 2025 and 2026?
Yes. Once you have locked your projects, you are able to just bypass entering information specific to projects, but you are still required to go in and certify and submit, which we will go over shortly, a project for every reporting period.
I see another question here in the chat about locking. So is locking mandatory when a project is done?
No, this is not a mandatory requirement. It is just a helpful tool to allow for ease in reporting and to assist with the reduction of too many entries needed. So it is just for your benefit. You do not have to use.
So the next question I have for you, this person's asked, how can I modify project info after it is added and saved?
Once you have entered a project, you can go in and we will unlock this project. And we will go in and you can go in to this section now and make a change to your project. You could change it to 5 million. And now save. So to make any changes to your project, you would go into your project status and change it.
Okay, so the last question that I have for you for now is, where do you find your project ID?
Your project IDs, they can be found, again, we are on the project overview tab. And your project IDs are listed in this section here underneath all the tab headers. You can sort them. And you can also go into the project if you would like and see the project ID.
That's all I have for you right now. So I'll turn it back to you, Stephanie.
Okay. So once we have entered our project and we have all the information we need, we are going to go over to the certification tab. Here you are going to get another summary of what is been submitted in this report. You're going to have an overview of the total adopted budget. Again, this is all of the project that you have entered, the total adopted budget, the total cumulative obligations for all of the projects listed, and the total cumulative expenditures for all the projects listed. You will notice there is a calculation field here again. This calculation field is a direct result of an allocation amount minus your obligations. This is telling you that of the amount that you have allocated, how much funding is left. This will also tell you if you've been allocated $10 million and you have exceeded that amount, it will be a negative number here. And that will be an indicator for you to go back to your project overview tab and verify your amounts. You will also have the number of projects that you have entered, as well as a chart below showing their status. Is it complete or is there incomplete information based off the project status, the obligation status, and the expenditure status? This is a great tool for if you have multiple projects, you can see if you have cleared all of those errors and made all of those entries appropriate. And then also you will notice on the right side of the screen, you have your information again, the status of the project, your period for the project, your due date for your project, your allocation amount. Also, I do want to point out in this help section, you do have the option to click on the user guide, and this will direct you directly to the most recent user guide that is out there that is pertaining to the reporting portal. Also the FAQ page, and it'll have helpful information on information that allows you to submit your report and any common questions that arise. So please use those resources as you need them. Now, once you have everything in good standing on your project, you will then scroll to the bottom of the page. You will notice that your information is generated in this section below, and it will require you to hit the certify and submit button. And once you have done that, and you go back into your report, your status will change to submitted in green in this section. So I want to turn it back to Laura, see if there are any final questions.
Hey, Stephanie. Yeah, we just have a couple of final questions in the Q&A. So I know you talked about this a little earlier, but could you just kind of reiterate whether or not the allocation amount is always your total distribution and not what is remaining or not yet spent?
Yes, I definitely wanted to go over this again, because in this section, you can see that your total allocated amount versus your total project obligations and expenditures. And this section, you are looking to identify if you have spent all the funding that has been distributed to you. This allocation amount will stay constant for the most part and not change. However, these calculations will change as you continue to report, and the goal is to reduce your remaining available balance down to 0 in this section.
I just have one more question for you in this section. So this person asks, what if a previous elected official filed the prior year report incorrectly and it needs to be fixed? Can prior year submitted reports be fixed?
At this time, our reporting is cumulative, and so we ask that all updates be made in the next open reporting period. That way, the changes are tracked appropriately and not in mid-cycle of reporting. So all changes that need to be done should be reflected in the next reporting period, because these are cumulative reports.
Thanks, Stephanie. So that's all I have from the Q&A. I'll turn it back to you.
Okay. And let me stop sharing. Okay. So just to take a quick step back, one of the key takeaways is for you to review the P&E reporting guidance, and not only the most recent. If you could take some time to review the prior P&E since your last report. In the beginning sections of those guidances, there is a an update section on what has changed in this reporting period. And so it kind of highlights where in the guidance that changes have been made. So please review those to see if there are any applicable changes to you. Also, as we've stated before, if you can open up and log into the portal immediately to identify if there are any issues and verify your POCs and make sure that everyone has the appropriate access. So during the meeting, you will be able to, or during the reporting period, you'll be able to focus on your reporting and not on any technical issues. And then lastly, also go through each tab for every submission to ensure that all the questions are asked. Anything with a red asterisk, if it is not answered, you will get a warning message or an error message when you go to certify that report. So please just take a double check before you submit to alleviate any of those issues. And I will hand it back to Laura.
Thank you, Stephanie. So now we're actually going to turn to my colleague, John McCloskey, who will walk through the compliance responsibilities and resources. John?
Thank you, Laura. Thank you, Stephanie. Hi, my name is John McCloskey. I am the SLFRF Compliance Monitoring Team's Director, which is tasked with overseeing post-award monitoring of SLFRF financial assistance awards. My team and I work closely with the other parts of the SLFRF program team to ensure that program priorities are met and critical risks are mitigated. Today, I'll speak with you about one, recipients' responsibility to ensure accountability and stewardship of their SLFRF award funds. Two, what happens when a recipient becomes non-compliant under their award. And three, what happens when a recipient doesn't resolve their non-compliance. By accepting an SLFRF award, the recipient agrees to undertake all reasonable efforts to complete the goals and objectives of the award and to take responsibility for complying with the terms and conditions described in the financial assistance agreement. In addition, the requirements of the uniform guidance generally applies to SLFRF awards. There are, however, some exceptions to the rule, particularly related to revenue replacement expenditure category. While subparts A, B, C, and F of the uniform guidance apply to revenue replacement, only specific provisions in subparts D and E apply. You can find more information under question number 13.15 of the SLFRF FAQs. In this way, recipients of SLFRF awards are responsible for good stewardship of the awarded financial assistance. Part of being a good steward is submitting your reports in a timely manner, regardless of whether you have spent all of your SLFRF funds or have not yet spent or used any of your SLFRF funds. Accounting for costs incurred under the award and being able to justify the expenses in accordance with the terms of the award. Treasury has posted many resources to guide SLFRF recipients' compliance with reporting requirements at treasury.gov/SLFRP reporting. A few of them are highlighted in the box to the right-hand side of this slide. So what happens when a recipient becomes non-compliant? For example, they don't submit a report or commit an activity that doesn't align with the goals and objectives of the award. When this happens, and we previously conducted outreach, we will issue a notice of non-compliance to the recipient. The notice of non-compliance will be sent through the Treasury's portal, and the recipient will receive notice that they have an important message in the notification center. You can see one of these notices of non-compliance and what it looks like in the notification center on the right-hand side of the slide. We take a cooperative approach to ensuring the recipient's compliance with the terms and conditions of the SLFRF award. Where feasible, we'll continue to conduct outreach to recipients that receive these notices with the goal of helping to clear the instance or instances of non-compliance. Once the outstanding compliance report is submitted or the additional details or requested documentation has been provided and reviewed by Treasury, we may consider the non-compliance resolved and the recipient then continues its regular reporting cadence. If the instance or instances of non-compliance continues to be an issue, then Treasury may take additional actions. When a non-compliant recipient doesn't resolve an instance of non-compliance, such as continuing to not submit a report, the Treasury has a number of remedies it can use to resolve the situation. This includes terminating the SLFRF award, requiring the return of SLFRF award funds, and reporting the recipient to the System for Award Management, or SAM.gov. Based on the continued non-compliance, a recipient's future ability to receive federal financial assistance may be hindered due to not complying with the terms of their award. The recipient could also be prevented from receiving additional federal funds if they are placed on the excluded parties list. The big thing is we want to continue to work with you before getting to this point so that we can prevent this worst case scenario. Thank you for your time this afternoon. As mentioned earlier, we've covered three main topics. You are responsible as a steward of federal funds. We want to work with you to clear instances of non-compliance. And if you continue to have instances of non-compliance, Treasury will take action to remedy the situation. Thank you, and I will hand back to Laura.
Thank you, John. So as a recap, today we reviewed some of the key reporting timelines and resources. We shared resources for accessing the reporting portal and updating and changing your user roles. We also provided a live reporting portal demonstration of how to complete the annual report, reviewed some of your compliance responsibilities, and provided helpful resources. So on the screen is a list of some of the key resources we highlighted throughout the presentation, which my colleague will provide again in the chat. This includes the compliance and reporting guidance, the SLFRF self-service resources, the SLFRF final rule frequently asked questions, the latest project and expenditure report user guide, and the link to register to use login.gov. So thank you again for joining today's session. We hope that you found it informative. We have concluded the presentation portion of the webinar for today. You can find all the resources we mentioned in this webinar on our website, and we will also follow up to those who registered for this webinar by email with a list of the resources we shared today. Thank you all again for joining, and have a good rest of the day.